The Legions of Athena. Chapter 17. Maximus just lay there unmoving, as the horror unfolded before him, unable to move a muscle, unable to even flinch, as Perseus plunged his blade straight through his friend. He still lay there now, staring straight at Daedalus, as the inventor's blood slowly trickled to his paralyzed fingers. The only sign that he had witnessed the dreadful situation was the tears falling from his eyes. Daedalus lay there in agonizing pain. He could feel his life force slowly slipping away. He knew it would all end soon. He wanted nothing more than to close his eyes and wait for death to claim him. But he couldn't. He still had a responsibility. With what little strength he had, he turned to Maximus. "Do not weep for me, boy," he said, seeing the tears dripping down his frozen face. "I have lived a good life, but I'm afraid this old man must burden you with one last errand." He tried to move his arms, but he couldn't. The pain was just too much, so he spoke again. "You will be able to move again soon, Maximus. And when you do, there is something I need you to take care of. The necklace I am wearing, it has a small cube in the center. I need you to take it to Achilles." Daedalus began coughing blood again. He didn't have any strength left. "Maximus, it must be destroyed," he managed. Daedalus could feel the darkness closing in on him. But there was still something left for him to say, not about his mission, but about his son. With his final breath, Daedalus said, "And please tell Icarus that I—" But that was it for the old man. He did not have the fortune of putting his final thoughts into words. Death had arrived. Maximus still lay there staring motionless at the body of his deceased friend, unable to help, unable to even comfort him in his final moments. All he could do was cry silently for the old inventor who had done so much for them. After a while, the tears stopped, and it was replaced by anger and hatred. His body did not respond to that either. It simply couldn't respond. But even the anger did not last. What came instead was dread, an unending sorrow of being completely helpless. All the while, Daedalus just lay there staring at him with his now vacant eyes. They no longer held the kind warmth that the inventor conveyed during his lifetime. Maximus wanted to reach out and close them, but he couldn't. He felt desperate and breathless. He felt as if he had failed him by being so weak, taken out by a single blow. Soon the blood had pooled all around them. It had created a red puddle on the clean white floors with the two of them in the middle of it, and Maximus still couldn't move. Hours had passed until Maximus finally began to regain control. He used all his will to try and move his fingers, and ultimately he was able to do so. A few more moments later, he was able to stretch his arm out and close Daedalus's eyes, finally ending the stare that had tortured his soul for so long. Maximus managed to stand up, but he still felt frozen in place. This was no longer the paralysis, but the complete shock of what had just happened setting into him. He stood there, unable to move, unable to speak, and unable to look away from the body in front of him. A sort of insanity took over him for a while as he stood drenched in the blood of his friend. He ran out of the room to find a sink and started washing himself like a madman. All he could think about was getting the blood off him. He kept washing till his arms hurt. He looked at the mirror to find his once gray t-shirt now stained red. He took it off and threw it away immediately, and went back to washing himself in the cold water. Once he finally calmed down, he tried to think again. He had things to do. He needed to tell the others. He needed to tell Achilles or Athena or Icarus. The thought of Icarus made Max's heart heavy again, but he knew this was not the time to mourn. This was the time to act. Also, there were Daedalus's final words, his request about the necklace. He rushed back to his body to check. Max found the strange piece of jewelry around his neck and carefully removed it. He didn't know what exactly it was, but he guessed Achilles would know better. He stuffed it in his pocket. The sight of Daedalus on the floor was driving him mad. He cleared out a long table in the adjacent room, carried his friend's body, and placed him there like one would in a coffin. He felt he owed Daedalus at least that much. Maximus knew he had to get out of there. He went back to get his blade. Although he couldn't find any clean clothes, he did manage to find a black Kevlar jacket on a test dummy. That fit him. Then with one final look at Daedalus, he was out the door, praying to the old inventor for forgiveness. Once outside, he looked around to find that there was still not a soul in sight. Perseus had obviously not stuck around for long. The longer he delayed, the more the trail went cold. He seemed to have been immobilized for quite some time, as it was already afternoon. He jumped inside the automatic car that had brought them there and fiddled with the controls. Luckily, a map showing specific locations in the city was already programmed into it. He first thought was to return to the Owl's Nest Castle, but then figured that everyone would have already left for the Colosseum by now and decided to head there instead. With a push of a few buttons, the car sped away at top speed. Maximus sat back and replayed the incident that had occurred. He tried to get over the guilt he felt for not being able to protect Daedalus and to take stock of everything. He took out the necklace and looked at the small metal cube. Somehow this cube seemed to be involved in Daedalus's brutal murder, but there was nothing particularly special about it. He only hoped Achilles knew what to do with it. When Maximus reached the Colosseum, he leapt out and ran. He had to get to suite number 7 and hoped that there was someone there he could talk to. But as he approached the lobby, he was stopped by 2 guards. You can't just go in there, boy, one of them said. Please, I need to talk to Odysseus. It's important, Max entreated. The second guard chuckled. Don't we all? Listen up, kid. We can't let every fan of the general into the arena because his autograph is important to you, he said. Maximus had no time to explain, but he had to do something. Please do let him pass. It would be such a pity if he didn't enter the arena today, a voice spoke from behind Maximus. He turned to find Theo, the tyro standing there in full battle armor, and a baton in each hand. He also had a large white bandage across his broken nose. Admiring your handiwork? He asked belligerently. Listen, Theo, you have to get me to Odysseus. Something has. Max began to say, but Theo cut him short. I get it. Chickening out, are we? It took a few seconds for Maximus to realize he was talking about the Owlet's tournament. In all that had happened, he had forgotten that. He was supposed to take part in it. Look, forget about the stupid tournament, Maximus replied. I need you to do me a favor here. What Max had just said threw Theo into a fit of rage. Stupid, you dare to brand this tournament we tyros have worked so hard for as stupid, Theo shouted. And now you want a favor. I have been waiting to get back at you in the arena ever since you broke my nose, you filthy Martian, and there is no way I'm letting you weasel out of this just because you know Odysseus. Maximus was still stayed calm. This was no time to pick a fight, so he tried to reason with him. Just listen to me. But he didn't even get a chance to finish his request, as Theo had just bashed one of his batons into his neck. Max felt a surge of electricity pass through him like he had just been hit by a taser. The tyro's batons were no ordinary weapons. Max's legs gave in immediately and he was on his knees. Take him inside, Theo ordered the two guards. I want to finish this in the arena. Those were the last words Max heard before he blacked out. This has been a chapter from Book 2 of the new World Odyssey Series, The Legions of Athena. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.